Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Stephania Cox. This afternoon, President Biden is taking action on the border crisis, what Biden's plan is, and how Republicans are reacting. Attorney General Merrick Garland answers questions as the House Speaker announces a new plan to tackle alleged weaponization of the Justice Department. It was an event that shocked the world. The Chinese Communist Party using tanks and soldiers to squash pro-democracy protesters in what came to be known as the Tiananmen Square massacre. Members of Congress today speaking out against the Chinese regime's continued human rights abuses on the massacre's 35th anniversary. In India, Prime Minister Modi has won a third term to lead the world's largest democracy. But his party won't retain its majority in parliament, what he and his political alliance will need to govern. New York lawmakers could potentially pass a new bill to protect minors from the dangers of social media. Big tech companies are opposing the bill. We have the details. A brutal heat wave is baking parts of the U.S. today. Forecasters say more states will see temperatures spike in the coming days. Moments ago, President Biden announced he's signing an executive order to address the illegal immigration surge. Here's what Biden has to say about the most aggressive border action he's taken so far.
Migrants will be restricted from receiving asylum at our southern border unless they seek it after entering through an established lawful process. And those who seek to come to the United States legally, for example, by making an appointment and coming to a port of entry, asylum will still be available to them. Still available. This action will help us to gain control of our border, restore order into the process. This ban will remain in place until the number of people trying to enter illegally is reduced to a level that our system can effectively manage.
Biden's order will temporarily pause asylum claims after a daily average of 2,500 illegal immigrants cross into the U.S. This will go into effect immediately since daily encounters already surpass that number. The restriction will stay until the daily average drops to 1,500 for 7 days in a row. Republicans today accused the president of using the strategy as a tool to win votes in November.
Another stunt. Oh, let's do an executive order on the border. But, let's make it so it really doesn't do a darn thing. It just helps us get through to November.
When he signs this executive order, the only question anyone should ask is, why didn't you do this in 2021? Why didn't you do this in 2022? Why didn't you do this in 2023? Why didn't you do this last month or the month before or the month before? How many dead bodies is enough?
Biden's also facing backlash from progressive Democrats who say he's abandoned his vow to fix the asylum system. The American Civil Liberties Union will challenge the order in court. The border crisis is affecting various aspects of American society. One of those is the education system. Lawmakers are now probing how the millions of people coming in illegally are impacting our schools. NTD's Arian Pazdar has that story.
The president's current policies for open borders are hurting America top to bottom.
The House Education and Workforce Committee held a hearing on Tuesday, probing how illegal immigration affects the school system. Lawmakers laid out that the influx of people is putting a heavy financial burden on school districts. On top of that, a witness said illegal immigrants are often enjoying more freedoms than American citizens. She said that's because illegal immigrants often don't have any documentation when they cross into the US, but they're still being taken into the school system.
But yet, as an American, even when I enrolled my children and even switching school districts, we had to jump through hoops to provide documentation of vaccination status.
In some cases, the information illegal immigrants without documents provide seems to be obviously incorrect.
There was talk of a student who claimed to be 18 but looked 26 or 27. Does that happen a lot?
Well, and that's the thing, is that we really don't know until something happens.
Since President Biden took office, immigration authorities have encountered almost 500,000 unaccompanied children. Arian Pazdar, NTD News.
Under President Biden, over 10 million illegal immigrants have entered the United States. Last November, U.S. Border Patrol recorded about an average of 6,000 daily encounters between ports of entry along the southwestern border. In recent weeks, there's been an average of roughly 3,700 illegal border crossings per day along the southern border. For more on this, we're joined by Todd Bensman. He's a senior national security fellow at the Center for Immigration Studies. Todd, why do you think Biden decided to sign this executive order now? Why not earlier?
Well, I think that the president and his campaign managers really are addicted to the narrative that they need legislation and that the Republicans and Donald Trump killed that legislation because the Republicans want to keep the border festering as a wound until the November election and use it as and I think this is part of that.
And so, I mean, you're saying that they're wanting to hold fast to this narrative, as you called it. What makes you say that it's a narrative?
Well, because first of all, the Republicans killed that bill because it does the exact polar opposite of controlling the border. It absolutely codifies and enhances and increases the flow of illegal immigration. And they wanted to be able to ensure that the Republicans, rejected it for that reason, so that they can blame the Republicans for wanting to have an open, festering wound that they can campaign on for November. What the executive order, what's going to happen there is they already know in advance that half a dozen organizations are going to sue to stop it. And as soon as all those organizations sue to stop it, you'll start to see Biden and all of his people say, well, if the Republicans would have passed our legislation, if they hadn't have blocked our legislation, we could control this mass migration crisis. It's their fault. It's all on them. They've been doing that now pretty effectively. That narrative has been, it's gotten a lot of really strong traction on the other side of the debate, where you have, almost as a talking point, universally, the Republicans want a mass migration crisis so that they can campaign on it. And the proof is that they killed the bill. So you're going to start to see the Biden administration throw up its hands again in about a day, maybe 2 days, once all the new lawsuits go in, and say, but the Republicans, this is their fault. Look how I'm trying. I tried this. They didn't want it. I tried that. It ran into a problem. I absolutely need to have that legislation. And the Republicans won't give it to me. And the Republicans won't give it to them because it's absolutely terrible legislation.
And it really, the devil's in the detail here, and I wish we could get into more of that and pick apart all of this, the legislation that's been considered, rejected, and why. Of course, our viewers can watch and read up more of your reporting with the Center for Immigration Studies and look into that more deeply. But just to finish up this segment, I wanted to talk with you about the Mexican president, the new president who's just been elected, Claudia Sheinbaum. In your view, what could that influence the crisis along the U.S.-Mexico border?
Yes, the Mexican president is in the pilot's chair on who's going to be our next president, because the mass migration crisis is polling as the #1 issue of American concern in this election. So the Mexican government right now has agreed to a deal with Biden to interdict 70% of the immigration flow that had been coming through as part of some kind of a deal that they cut back in December. The numbers are already way down from 10 and 14,000 a day to 3,500 a day crossing, which is another reason why they don't really need an executive order at all. They've already got the Mexicans reducing it to way off its highs for 4 months straight now. I think that the new Mexican president will, if she gets into when she gets into office, probably won't be as interested because, especially if Biden wins, then their job is done, right? Biden won, but if which is what they want.
Right.
And if Trump wins, then of course, they're in for a world of hurt because Trump doesn't pull punches with the Mexicans on immigration. You're going to do what we want, or else we're going to destroy your economy. That's what Trump does. So it's in, yeah.
Right. So you've spent quite a lot of time down there at the border and speaking to people on the ground there. You've got a lot of insight, which I hope our viewers will look into further to understand this in more depth. Thank you so much, Todd Bensman, Senior National Security Fellow at the Center for Immigration Studies. Great to hear your insights.
Thank you.
Attorney General Merrick Garland testified before the House Judiciary Committee today. It's part of the committee's investigation into alleged weaponization of the justice system. Our Washington correspondent, Luis Martinez, joins us live from Capitol Hill next. Luis, what can you tell us about today's hearing and the timing of it?
Well, first of all, a very long hearing. It's 5 hours and it's still ongoing, Steph. Attorney General Merrick Garland, immediately as he started his opening remarks, accused House Republicans of spreading conspiracies about the Department of Justice. Also, Attorney General Merrick Garland immediately also said that Congress's request to see the audio recordings of Special Counsel Robert Hur's interview with President Biden as part of the DOJ's investigation into the president's handling of classified materials was illegitimate. Let's listen to what Attorney General Merrick Garland had to say.
I will not be intimidated, and the Justice Department will not be intimidated. We will continue to do our jobs free from political influence, and we will not back down from defending democracy.
During a recess, I caught up with Congressman Matt Gaetz, who sits in the House Judiciary Committee, and he actually in turn insisted that it was the Department of Justice lack of transparency in divulging these documents that was causing widespread conspiracy theories about the politicization or alleged weaponization of the Department of Justice. Let's listen to what Congressman Matt Gaetz had to say about this.
Merrick Garland says it's a conspiracy theory that we've expressed concern about the coordinated lawfare here against President Trump, and all he has to do is release the records. We want to see the calendars, the meetings that occurred between Department of Justice officials and officials for Fani Willis or Alvin Bragg or any other lawfare against Trump.
Earlier today, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson also announced a three-pronged plan to tackle what House Republicans call the weaponization of the Department of Justice. According to Speaker Johnson, House Republicans will use Congress's oversight powers, the power of the purse, and also the legislative agenda to tackle these alleged weaponization of the Department of Justice. Steph.
Oh, okay, so next, what have Democrats said about these efforts to tackle the alleged weaponization of the DOJ?
Of course, Steph, during a recess of this hearing, I also caught up with Congressman Jamie Raskin, who happens to be the chairman of the House Oversight Committee. I asked Chairman Raskin what he thought about Speaker Johnson's plan about using Congress's oversight powers to tackle the alleged weaponization of the Department of Justice, and this is what he had to say. Let's listen.
These sound like the typical maneuvers they've been engaging in ever since this Congress started, just to attack the rule of law whenever its legitimate operation negatively affects somebody who they want to protect.
Other congressmen like Republican Keith Self from Texas, who used to be a county judge, actually expressed that they thought Speaker Johnson's plan was necessary. Let's listen to what Congressman Keith Self had to say.
I think we have to do it. I'm absolutely committed to that path because I was in the Trump trial. That was a baked-in verdict. That was blatant election interference.
So, Steph, it remains to be seen if Speaker of the House Mike Johnson will bring to the House floor a resolution that already passed the House Judiciary Committee that would hold Attorney General Merrick Garland in contempt of Congress for not divulging these documents requested by House Republicans. That will remain to be seen if it will happen in this week or in the coming weeks, or if Republicans will muster the votes to pass this resolution. Steph, back to you.
Luis, thank you. The Georgia Court of Appeals has set a tentative date to hear former President Trump's appeal of the Fani Willis disqualification ruling. The fall date makes it almost certain that the Georgia RICO trial won't begin before the November election. According to a docket notice, arguments are set for October 4th. Trump and co-defendants are appealing the ruling that stopped short of disqualifying District Attorney Fani Willis after she admitted to having a romantic relationship with her top prosecutor, Nathan Wade. Lower court judge Scott McAfee said the defendants didn't prove that Willis had a conflict of interest or that she had gained a financial benefit, but he did find that there was an appearance of impropriety, which resulted in Wade's resignation. Trump has pleaded not guilty to all charges of alleged efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election in Georgia. And opening arguments today in Hunter Biden's federal gun trial, prosecutors told jurors that the president's son was addicted to drugs when he lied on federal documents to purchase a gun. Lawyers for Hunter Biden said Hunter Biden did not believe he was addicted to drugs when he answered the question on the federal forms. Today, jurors heard recorded excerpts from Hunter Biden's memoir, Beautiful Things. In it, he narrated about returning to Delaware around the time that he purchased the gun. Hunter Biden also talked about how he descended into using drugs following the death of his brother, Beau Biden, from cancer in 2015. Hunter Biden is accused of lying to a federally licensed gun dealer, making a false claim on the application by saying he was not a drug user and illegally having the gun for 11 days. If convicted, Hunter Biden could face up to 25 years in prison. And lawmakers are commemorating the 35th anniversary of the brutal repression of pro-democracy demonstrators in Beijing's Tiananmen Square. NTD's Washington correspondent Jack Bradley is on Capitol Hill. Jack, what are members of Congress saying about the Chinese regime's repression?
Well, Steph, they say it's gotten worse, actually, since 1989. The same repression that was used back in the Tiananmen Square massacre we're seeing today is what they're saying. The House Select Committee on the CCP held a press conference on this, discussing the human rights abuses that the Chinese regime has been carrying out throughout all these years and is continuing on today. I spoke to several lawmakers. Take a look.
The human rights have eroded in China when you consider Hong Kong was promised to be two systems, one country. That has not occurred.
We need to remember, but we need to act. And acting means, for instance, bringing it up in every conversation and dialogue that we have with the CCP.
They surveil their citizens like no other nation. Their citizens are petrified to speak their mind because they can be whisked away at any time.
They're afraid of basic human rights, the aspirations that all humans share, that Americans share, but the Chinese people do too. And I think someday the Chinese Communist Party is going to have a serious reckoning with the Chinese people.
The Tiananmen Square massacre happened in 1989. It was when over 1 million people in China went to Beijing to protest for democracy. They were also speaking out against the CCP's corruption, economic mismanagement, nepotism, and the poor career prospects for students. After weeks of protests, the Chinese regime dispatched soldiers and tanks to crack down to essentially repress and crush these demonstrators. Estimates have said that up to several thousand people had died during the June 4th massacre. The regime's human rights abuses still continue to this day. We can see with the persecution of Falun Gong, the Uyghurs, Tibetan Buddhists. They are also been a constant threat to Taiwan's sovereignty. There was a group of lawmakers I spoke to Congressman Andy Barr, who is one of them, who had just went to go visit Taiwan to congratulate Taiwan's new president and reaffirm U.S. support for Taiwan. Take a look.
We witnessed the aggression of the CCP, not just in the Taiwan Strait with the Joint Sword 2024A exercise, but an encircling of the island democracy of Taiwan with aggressive People's Liberation Army, Navy, and air warplanes and warships. This harassment of a free and democratic island is more evidence that what happened in 1989 is even worse today.
The Tiananmen Square massacre remains one of the most censored topics within China to this day. People in China, if they go ahead and search for the Tiananmen Square massacre, won't be able to find the true picture in there. And many people don't know what happened that day, that students were killed. They thought they all just went home. So we can see that there's a huge censorship around this and many other topics related to the Chinese regime's human rights abuses. Steph, back to you.
Yeah, it's a big topic. Thank you so much, Jack Bradley. Today in India, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his party claimed victory in the general election. Modi told a crowd of supporters, "Today's victory is the victory of the world's largest democracy." This is his third term. He promised to continue the work to grow and expand India's economy by increasing defense production and raising exports. However, his alliance failed to secure the majority in parliament for the first time since Modi was elected in 2014. His party will need the support of other alliances to get the majority of votes required to pass laws. When we come back, New York lawmakers could potentially pass a new bill to protect minors from the dangerous effects of social media. How big tech companies are reacting. And staying cool using your AC is going to cost you more this summer. Find out more about rising temperatures and energy costs. That story and more after the break here on NTD News.
If you're watching this, I didn't make it. Thanks to people like you and the American Heart Association, my family never had to see this video. I was a healthy 47-year-old, no symptoms, but then my doctor discovered I had a bad heart valve that was beyond repair. The scariest day of my life was when I was sitting on a gurney as I looked and my wife was at my side and my kids had me surrounded. Deep down, you know, this could be it. This could be all there is.
Not having him around for Riley to grow up with and have that papa figure in his life, that would have been hard.
This little heart valve did something really big. It saved my life. I wouldn't be here today without it. The research for this heart valve was funded by the American Heart Association. And that's why I'm asking you to become a monthly donor for just $19 a month. When you do, you'll help fund the next medical breakthrough that could save your life or the life of someone you love. You'll also provide life-saving CPR training and help certify hospitals to give the best care to those who have had a heart attack or stroke. When you give $19 a month, we'll send you a t-shirt just like this one. From the moment you put it on, you'll help raise awareness for heart disease and stroke. Since my surgery, I had a son get married. I had a daughter graduate high school. I had another daughter give birth to a precious boy. I would have missed all that. And that's why it's personal for me.
We're very thankful for everyone who is a donor because it gives us more time.
Every 40 seconds, someone has a heart attack. The next person you help save could be someone you love or even you. Become a monthly donor today by calling or going to helpheart.org because it's personal.
I can remember being back in medical school where it was almost a depressing conception of the brain. We're born with so many neurons that peak like around 20, and then it's just a downhill decline from there. But today, we are going to debunk this old way of thinking and use a new technology called the functional MRI PET scanner to show that the brain can be rewired to function much better. Caused an almost immediate change, and by better, I mean improved focus, longer attention span, better mood, decreased risk of developing dementia, and an overall better life. So get ready to be surprised and even amazed. This is really exciting information as we explore what is possible, as we talk to thought leaders in the field. I needed to make sure I'm really that guy, okay. See the cutting edge tools they are using to assess the brain and hear from real patients about their dramatic healing process.
That's good.
Staying cool is going to cost Americans more, and Utah is suing TikTok, claiming its live stream feature is harmful to children. Here's NTD's Dawn Ma with today's Business Matters.
Okay, thank you, Steph. So staying cool this summer is going to put a heavy dent on the pockets of many Americans. The National Weather Service says the country will have above normal temperatures these next few months. And what that means is many residents will be cranking up the air conditioner, which will translate into higher electric bills. An analysis predicts the average cost to stay cool will go up nearly 8% from June through September. And this is according to the National Energy Assistance Directors Association and as well the Center for Energy, Poverty and Climate. So it works out to about an average of $719, and that is nearly $200 more than the electricity cost on average in 2019. Now, some states will be hit harder than others. Those living in the Mid-Atlantic and Pacific could expect cost jumps of more than 12%. According to the Department of Health and Human Services, heat-related deaths are on the rise in the country. In other news, a new Utah lawsuit claims TikTok features put children at risk. TikTok Live allows users to post live videos to the platform where they can interact with viewers and respond to comments in real time. Only users over the age of 18 can host a live stream and must meet a certain follower count. But a lawsuit filed by Utah's Attorney General alleges that TikTok Live operates like a, quote, virtual strip club where children may be encouraged to by adults to engage in illicit acts on camera in exchange for payments from other users. It claims that TikTok has insufficient age verification and enforcement measures to ensure the app is being used safely. The lawsuit also alleges that TikTok is aware of the misuse of its live feature but has failed to take adequate steps to address the issue. All right, that's all from me. Back to you, Steph.
Thank you for watching NTD Newsroom. I'm Stephanie Cox. Join Tiffany Meyer for the NTD Evening News at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific.